Hi, I'm Alisa Brownlee, Assistive Technology Specialist with the ALS Association Greater Philadelphia Chapter, and I also work for the National Office. I want to thank you today for joining me to discuss home modifications for people with ALS. To begin, I want to tell you that I'm going to be showing you a bunch of different products by different manufacturers, and I have no financial interest in anything that I'm saying or showing you today. For the chapter, I do virtual home visits and assessments, and I am always willing to schedule a Zoom visit with you so that I can walk around your home. You can show me the areas in which you have concern, and I can make recommendations on how to modify your home and make it safe for both the individual with ALS and the caregiver. All you need to do is send me an email, and my email is going to be on the last slide, and I am happy to set up the home assessment for you through Zoom. So a lot of what goes into making modifications on your home is about decision making. So looking around your home and saying, is my house accessible? Because the majority of homes in the United States have not been designed or constructed to accommodate the needs of somebody with a disability. So when I'm looking at my home and I'm saying, well, is it accessible? Well, okay, do I want to make permanent or temporary adaptations, knowing that ALS is a progressive disease? And am I safe with these adaptations? And is my caregiver safe? And I stress safety as the utmost importance when I'm doing a visit with our people with ALS and their families. And especially now, during this coronavirus pandemic, we need both the individual with ALS and their caregiver to remain safe, because hospitalizations can be extremely detrimental at this point. And I say that because if an individual with ALS is in the hospital, there are no relatives allowed in the emergency room with them. There are no relatives allowed to visit them. Should they fall and break something and end up in a nursing home, there are no visitors in the nursing home. So trust me, you want to avoid being hospitalized or being placed in a facility during this COVID-19 pandemic. So the other issues with home modifications is that no home modifications are covered under medical insurance. The Veterans Administration is the only organization that will reliably fund renovations. Otherwise, you are on your own paying for it privately, and they can be costly. So you also need to look at, will modifications raise my homeowner's insurance? Will they change the value of my home? And lastly, sometimes the hard decision is, should I move? And the person with ALS and their medical decisions are crucial when discussing home modifications because of the financial ramifications, and because ALS is progressive, and because you might make structural changes, and sometimes an individual only lives a month or two to enjoy those structural modifications. So you have to think about, what are my medical decisions? And also, when I talk about medical decisions, does somebody eventually want to consider living on a ventilator? Well, if they say yes, then sure, we're going to think about making major structural modifications, because the lifespan is increased when somebody lives on a ventilator. So talking about that, making those hard decisions, and having a family meeting about, what does that mean? And what does that mean in terms of caregiving, in terms of medical insurance? What does it mean in terms of home modifications? And then weighing the cost of modifications versus in-home care. Another topic that we discuss when I do these virtual visits, or even home visits when we used to do them, is weighing this out. So making a chart and saying, okay, for me to modify my home, if I wanted to add on a new bathroom, and the average new bathroom in the United States is $30,000, versus taking that money and saying, okay, I need to save that for care. because if you hire a home health aide, just an aide through an agency, the average cost is $30 an hour. So thinking about, do I want to pay for care or do I want to modify my home? And if you can do both, that's great. But if you're working on a budget, you have to say, okay, well, this is going to cost this and care is going to cost that. And you can follow that up with saying, are there hard limits for the patient and caregivers? And what do I mean by hard limits? I will ask a person with ALS, I said, is there something that you don't want your caregiver to do? And inevitably, a lot of that revolves around bathrooms. I do not want them to be helping me on the toilet. Okay, if that's your hard limit, then you know that when you can no longer do that independently, that's when you have to hire care. So that's when the chart comes in of saying, okay, this is what it's going to cost us. This is where I am in the trajectory of the disease. And so I need X amount of money to pay for care. There's a psychosocial aspect of modifying a home because homes are a place of significant personal meeting. And home modifications can also be viewed as the physical manifestation of this disease. You know, if I move that coffee table, I'm giving in to disease. I've heard many people say to me over my 24-year career here is that I don't want to make any changes in my house. My house is my house. My house is my castle. And we as clinician and therapist want you to enjoy your home, give it meaning, but we also want to make it safe for you. So we understand this is your environment. We understand that you like things the way they are. But when we talk to you about, okay, that's a beautiful throw rug you have, Asian inspired, it's gorgeous, but it's a tripping hazard. And so we're not doing that to be mean. We're not saying that because, you know, we just want you to change your home. No, we want to make your home safe for you. And so throw rugs are a huge tripping challenge. And tripping, yes, they are a tripping challenge. And so we want to look at your home. We want to respect your home, but we also want to make you safe in your home. So especially with our older folks with ALS, you know, they sometimes do not want to manipulate their environment at all because they've made so many memories in the home, and their memories and that house are linked together so tight. And so they feel like they belong in that home. And so our older people with ALS are sometimes more resistant to make modifications and changes in the house. And again, respectfully, we understand that. But in this pandemic that we're experiencing right now, we need to keep you safe. We need to keep you out of the hospital, and we need to keep you out of a nursing home. So just, you know, people say about the home environment. Well, what is it? Well, it's your physical home, you know, the concrete walls and the sidewalk, but it's also your social home, and it's your personal home. And all these are intertwined about making modifications, even sometimes as small as adding handrails around a toilet can be so impactful to someone. And so sometimes even little interventions are the hardest to modify in the home because of all these things, the social home, the personal home, and we're asking you to make changes in all three of these aspects of your home. And there's often a lot of reluctance to make modifications. People with ALS will tell me, I want things to remain as normal as possible, not just for me, but for my children or the grandchildren. And we understand that. I get that. But unfortunately, we're not dealing with a normal disease. And you also have to remember things are not normal for your caregiver. And your caregiver is doing either a lot of lifting, maybe they don't have to lift so much. They're helping with transfers. Maybe we can put something in to help with transfers. So we're trying to understand your family dynamic and understand that you are reluctant to make these changes. But again, we stress safety, and we also need for your caregiver to get some form of help if they need it in terms of moving you around and transferring you so that your caregiver doesn't harm themselves either. So the most common obstacles that we see in homes are the width of the doors, the threshold, the stairs, the rugs, and maneuvering space. And I gotta go back to that first slide, that most houses in the United States were not built for people with disabilities. So this list is rather typical of the obstacles that we see in current homes. So I'm going to start off with ramps, and these are just some pictures I chose of ramps of what you don't want, okay? Obviously, you know, this one you can't even get up and down on. And then not every house is able to accommodate a ramp. And I'm going to circle back to the first or the second slide that I talked about decision making. Sometimes the answer is I have to move, or the answer is if I want to stay in my home, I have to acknowledge I can't get out of my home unless somebody physically carries me down the steps. And you may or may not have the support system for that to happen. So then you ask yourself, you know, is my house rampable? So for all ramps, whether permanent or temporary, the legal requirement is 1 to 12. So for every inch of height and grade change, you need 12 inches of ramp. And in some areas in the United States, they have lowered that to 1 to 7. But the ramp length should not exceed 30 feet of landings. The ramp should not rise more than 30 inches. The minimum width of the ramp is 36 inches. And so usually the minimum width of a door to get out with a power wheelchair is 32 inches. So, but the width of the ramp is 36 inches. So it can go on either side of the door. Landings at the top and the bottom need to be as wide as the ramp, which is 36 inches. And you need a steady surface for the exit of the ramp. So the ramp has to go down on concrete. It can't go down on dirt, can't go down on grass. I mean, it can, but it's not supposed to, because both the grass, dirt, sand would be obstacles for the wheelchair once they get off of the ramp. There are several different construction materials that you can use for ramps. Wood ramps are permanent, like this one right here. They can be more costly than steel and aluminum. They do require a permit from your township or your borough or your city, and they can reduce the value of their home. There's been a few studies that say that, you know, people who are reselling their house and the people that are buying will go, oh, I don't want that ramp in front of the house. So steel and aluminum ramps can be temporary and they can be easily removed. So here, this is a mesh steel ramp. And so snow and rain can go between the mesh, and this is a solid aluminum ramp. But you notice all of them have rails. That is an ADA requirement, but it also helps not only the individual who might be having problems, and if you're in a wheelchair, yes, or you could use this with a walker, but it also can help the caregiver out. And it's a safety mechanism. So this is called a suitcase ramp, and this is used for like 1 to 3 steps. And the idea is that it folds over like a suitcase, as you can see here in the corner here, and there's a handle, and so you can carry this from place to place. We have a number of people who live in planned communities, and almost all the houses are the same, the entrance is the same. So if they have, you know, 1, 2, 3 steps, they can use this for their house, but then if they want to go over to their neighbors, they can fold it up. Caregiver walks it over to the next house, and then they just fold it over to their neighbor's house. And they come, obviously, you can see here, from 2 feet to 6 feet. So if your house is not rampable, some things to think about are stair lifts. This is a stair lift for the outside. It's basically an outside elevator. And it does need, as you can see here, it needs a concrete slab in which to sit, right? These stair lifts have to have that slab. And so instead of a ramp, what you do is you drive your wheelchair onto the lift here. This lip closes and the whole elevator lifts up and it delivers you up to the top step. So as I mentioned, the minimum width of a door is 32 inches. You can use something called swing away hinges, and these can give you up to 1.5 to 2 inches more in door width. And so this is what they look like. They can be purchased at any home improvement store. And so as you can see here through the diagram, once the door is open, it adds 2 inches to most doorways. Sometimes though, actually just swinging the doorway out instead of in, swinging the door out instead of in can give you the width that you need. That can be a simple solution too. And this is called a threshold ramp. These are ramps that you would use on small thresholds, like to go out onto a deck or to go into, some of them are even into the shower. And as you can see here, they're either steel or this is plastic. And they come up. So if you wanted to like go out onto the deck, you could have this threshold ramp. And once you're out on the deck, the caregiver can lift the ramp up and you can close the door. So it doesn't, you know, it doesn't impede you from closing your door, obviously, since they're pretty lightweight and you just bring them up when you want to either slide or close the door. So regarding toilet assistance, when you want rails around the toilet, you want ones with 4 legs. You do not want this, okay? This is not safe. This can tip over, even if it is screwed into the toilet. If you start to fall, you're going to fall. There is nothing steadying this. So you want toilet assistance, and for safety, you want this. Now this is called a bedside commode, and basically it looks like this, all right, with a bucket. But if you want to put the commode over the toilet, you just take the bucket off and you put it right over here. Or you can, of course, keep it by the side of the bed also, okay? And then some of them actually have seats that help push you up a little bit. But definitely you want 4 legs over the toilet in order to make the bathroom safe. There are elevated toilets, or toilet elevator. And what this does, it adds 3.5 and sometimes now 4 inches of height to a toilet. And as you can see, if you have the resources, instead of using the over the bed commode, or excuse me, bedside commode over the toilet, you can install a higher toilet and just use rails here like this that come against the side of the toilet. These rails are actually into the studs of the walls, and some of them are retractable. So when the person who has a disability is done on the toilet, you can retract them into the walls so it doesn't impede a caregiver or a visitor from using the toilet, and they don't have that rail in the way. So you can get them retractable also. And The higher you can get the toilet, the easier it is for transfer off the toilet, especially if you need assistance, if you have a caregiver coming and helping you lift up. The higher that you can be off of the toilet, the easier the transfer will be. And higher toilets are also better if you are using a bidet. And of the numerous assistive technology devices that I recommend, the number one thing that people come back to me and say is, thank you for telling me about the bidet. Not very known here in the United States, but in European and Asian countries, they're the standard. But bidets can offer you so much independence on the toilet. And I'm going to go back to talking about what is that hard limit. And as I said, a lot of times people will say around toileting, and it's around hygiene, because they don't want someone wiping for them. When you use a bidet, you are independent for both wiping and drying. Bidets can be added to an existing toilet, or you can buy toilets already with the bidet installed in them. It depends on your budget. But what you want to do is have a bidet that has warm water and has a drying function. So here's a picture of a bidet. It goes over the current toilet seat, or it becomes the toilet seat. However, you either buy it, as I said, as an all-in-one unit, or you add on your own. So this is an add-on of one that goes over your existing toilet. And so you can see here's the bidet, here's the toilet, and then here's the handrails again. And why the difference I'm saying about the handrails versus the bedside commode over the toilet is that if you use this, it now will impede the bidet. Right? The bidet can't get around this circle here. So you cannot use a bedside commode over the toilet and expect to use the bidet. So if you're planning on using a bidet, you're going to need some form of handrails here. And you can't use this, you need to use a setup like this, okay? And that's why when we're talking about the toilet getting elevated, it helps even more when a caregiver has to come and transfer you. And the other thing about the bidets is that they come with remote controls. And those remote controls can be used by the individual if they have hand function. There are remote controls that are actually foot activated, or you can do a caregiver remote control. One of my clients who loves his bidet is an individual that can still walk, but he does not have arm function. He has no arm function at all. So he goes into the bathroom, and with assistance, his caregiver lowers him onto the toilet, which again, reminder, has a bidet. And then she leaves and she stands outside. And when he's done, he'll say to her, okay, warm water. And she presses the remote and then waits. And then he'll go, okay, dry now. She presses the remote. Okay, I'm done. And then she comes in and helps him. But he's done all his hygiene on his own, and he absolutely loves it. So I can't stress how highly recommended they are with the clients that I have used them with. And I want you to think about it. There's lots of YouTube videos on bidets, but it can be a huge quality of life issue for people. So for your bathroom, the ideal is to have an open concept bathroom. But as I mentioned, changing your whole bathroom could be $30,000. So, whether or not that's feasible for you, I don't know. But I'm giving you ideas, as the idea is to have all this open concept. The most important thing, though, is to have a roll-in shower. The shower is flush with the floor so that you can get a shower chair into the shower. You can take it out, no lip or anything else. So if you're designing a bathroom, you want to design a roll-in shower. The new concept, though, in accessible bathrooms is called European bathrooms. And the whole idea is that the whole room can get wet. There's no delineation between the shower and the commode as there is here in this American bathroom. This one, bottom left, is a European bathroom. So you see the commode here and you see the shower right above the commode. And here on the right-hand side, again, here's the commode, here's the shower. No really delineation. Whereas here in this American one, there's a small glass door, so you have your toileting area, you have your hand washing area, and you have your shower area, 3 separate shower areas. So whatever design you want is up to you if you're building a new bathroom, but the European style is a little less expensive than making 3 separate areas. So using a tub transfer bench for people who have a bathtub and they don't have the option of having a shower. These are sliding tub transfer systems where the individual sits on this chair and this chair then slides on rails into the bathtub. Now the caregiver, if the individual can't lift their legs on their own, the caregiver does have to lift their legs over the lip. But it's very effective and it's very safe. And this one is actually just a transfer bench where you sit on the outside and you shimmy. The person has to be able to shimmy their body all the way over. It's not on rails. And that's the same with this one. So you sit here and you physically move your body over, as opposed to this one, which is on rails. And this one is also on rails, but this has a swivel seat. So you sit on the seat this way, then you press a lever underneath, the seat swivels this way and then goes right into the tub. These are called tub transfer systems. Now, this one was a tub transfer bench. This one is a tub transfer system. And what it does is it has a wheelchair that is waterproof. And the wheelchair, if you can see here, has a cutout, all right? So you transfer someone in the bedroom onto this rolling shower seat. And you always want to do transfers in bedrooms. You don't want to do transfers in bathrooms. Bathrooms are the #1 place people fall. And they also are not often large enough to do a transfer. So you want to do a transfer in the bedroom and you want to put someone in a rolling shower chair, which is just what this is, okay? And this particular rolling shower chair comes here and you can lock it in and then you can move it into the tub, lock it out, and this is the base again. And then you can actually put it over a toilet because, as I mentioned, there's the cutout so the person can do their toileting. And then you can roll them back into the bedroom. So you can see some of them have head supports here, and this one is actually, it's a reclining one. So depending on what style that you want to use. So for shower assistance without that sliding tub transfer system, these are called rolling shower chairs. They're made of PVC piping, and again, you see the cutout for using over a commode. And so this is the type of chair, the minimum. This is, you know, the least inexpensive. Some of them are made of waterproof metal. They're much more sturdy. But I'm just showing you the low end here of shower chairs. But this is mesh, PVC piping, everything can get wet. And they do come in a recline too if you have a big enough shower. And as I mentioned, there are shower ramps, and this one is just designed to go over the lip and enough. It's not a very big lip, and so it's enough of a ramp to get over the lip and into the shower in a shower chair. And as I mentioned, ideally you want the roll-in shower, which is flush to the floor. If your house sits on a concrete slab, it is almost impossible to put a roll-in shower in because you don't well, it isn't possible. You don't have the ability of the shower underneath to go down in order for the water to drain. And there are lots of commercials on television about how great these bathtubs are. You don't want this at all because it has a huge lip here, and there is no way to make this accessible with a rolling shower chair at all. If you don't have the option of having access to a shower, so for example, if you opted to live on your first floor and your shower's on your second floor, there are portable showers that are available. This one is called the Fawssit. It's Fawssit, as you see here. And it's a portable shower, and it breaks down, and that's what it looks like when it's folded up. But the basic premise behind these showers is that there is a hose in the outside on the back here that goes into a sink, and another hose that goes onto the faucet. So it gets water in, it takes water out through a pump, and the individual with a disability or ALS here sits in the shower chair. This is one of the better ones I was mentioning. It's made of metal and rubber and can get wet. And here's the shower hose. So you take a shower, you're done, you come out, because this folds down, the wheelchair comes out, and then your caregiver can fold it and put it away. These are not foldable. They're plastic, then they're portable, but they're not foldable. But as you can see here, they have, this is called a shower bay, and they've brought water in to the bedroom. And here also, they bought, I guess this is in the living room. And so you can bring water in if you have a water source, and you can put this anywhere that you need to. So regarding patient transfer lifts, this is called a Hoyer lift. And this helps a caregiver get somebody in and out of bed, in and out of their wheelchair, and obviously it's on wheels. So when people say to me, when do I need a Hoyer lift? Well, when you can no longer get yourself out of bed and you are relying on your caregiver to really do a lot of lifting, when you can't support yourself standing, that's when you need a Hoyer lift. You need it for your safety and the safety of your caregiver. And the basic premise behind a Hoyer lift is that the individual sits on a sling, and then when they're ready to be transferred, the caregiver brings the Hoyer lift over and has to get this part underneath the bed. So if you're not using a hospital bed, if you're using a regular bed or a Craftmatic or an adjustable bed that you purchased, you need to make sure that there is room on the floor, in between the floor and the bed, to get a Hoyer lift in. And so you put the bottom under the person with ALS. You take the sling gets put into this, I'm going to compare it to a crane here, and then the caregiver pumps the Hoyer lift and it lifts the person up. Now, there are electric Hoyer lifts that don't require pumping, but those are not covered under insurance. That's considered a caregiver convenience. What is covered is the manual one. If you want an electric one, you can pay the upcharge. You would pay that right to the vendor. But no, from insurance, you're going to get the pump version. But this one actually is an electric version. And it's helping this gentleman who they're demonstrating fell on the floor. So you can use it to help get somebody if they've fallen off the floor. And I don't know, I hope you can see here that this sling actually has a cutout for toileting. So if you put this person on the sling, you can put them on a toilet or on a commode so that they can use either or, and then when they're done, you can just lift them up again. You can also get slings that have head support. This is called a hammock sling. That's really important if you have somebody who has neck weakness. Now, this is a great sling as long as somebody can hold their head up. But if they're starting to list, I mean, they're going to be listing all over the place when you're making the lift, and that's not safe. That can harm somebody or hurt them and cause pain. That's not what you want. So you want to make sure that if they need neck support, you call your doctor and say they can no longer hold their head up. I need a Hoyer lift with a sling that can hold their head up. If you don't want to use a Hoyer lift, if you want to look at something permanent, there are permanent lift ceilings. You might have seen them. They go into the joists of the ceiling, and what they are is tracks, and you can run tracks throughout the entire house if you want, or if you can just run a track around from the bedroom into the bathroom, however you want to do it. And there's also something called a two-post lift system. This is a portable lift system, smaller track, but it is not permanently installed into the ceiling. And it's two posts with another post in the middle. And so that's where the lift goes. And I have pictures to show you on that. So a ceiling lift, this is the permanent lift. And it goes into the ceiling joists, as you can see here. But you can put tracks all over the house, as I mentioned, or you can just go from point A to point B. But the idea is these are fully electronic. So you're still using the sling, but you're putting the sling into this feature here, and then you're just pressing a button, and then everything is done for you. The lift goes up, and then once you have the individual in a sling, you just take them through the tracks to wherever you want to go in the house. Now, this is the two portable system. This is the two-post system I've mentioned here. So see, two posts here with a bar in between, and again, an electronic lift here. So say there's a hospital bed here, and then here is the wheelchair. If the person's in the hospital bed, you put the sling on under them, tie the sling into here, and then press the button. The lift brings them up, and then you just glide them over here and then put them in the wheelchair. And this is a portable system, and it does not go into the ceiling joists. So if you don't want to make major modifications, because this is pretty major, going to the joists and then taking it out, and then you would have to, look at all the holes, or you can use something that doesn't go into the ceiling joists. So some factors to consider is if you want to use that permanent ceiling lift, is the weight capacity, but they are very easy to use. Some just have on, off, and up and down. Depending on how and where you want to go in the house, how much track do you need? And if you want to consider then the two-post lift, make sure it has wide bases and the track is long enough to fit both the bed and the wheelchair, or the bed and the commode, wherever you're putting it. So do you need this long-term? I'm going to circle back again to what I said about having these hard conversations about medical decisions. But if somebody said to you, yes, I want to be vented when the time comes, I want to live on a vent and a tracheostomy, people can live decades after that. So maybe then that is the time to consider permanent modifications, permanent ceiling lift versus temporary if they opt not to do that, or if they are well into the progression of ALS. And do you want this lift to go into the bathroom or not? Also, where to put the lift. So we have those hard conversations again. All right, well, I know that I'm not going to be able to use the stairs through the duration of the disease, so I'm going to move downstairs, and then that's where I'm going to put the ceiling lift. And so, deciding where downstairs you're going to put it. And I just mentioned stair glides, or I mentioned using the steps. And so for the inside, traditional stair glides that you see, you know, they go up and down a flight of steps. They can go up and down straight steps, or they can go around curved steps. Now, the curved steps is considered a custom stair glide. They unfortunately are much more expensive than one that just goes up and down a straight stair glide or a straight set of stairs. The most important thing to know about stair glides is that they are only to be used as long as the individual has trunk support. So by trunk support, I mean being able to hold themselves upright. Once they cannot do that, and if they start to list, that's when your physician or your therapists are going to tell you to stop using the stair lift. It is not safe. These are not designed for people who can't hold their weight on their trunk. And unfortunately, if you try to put somebody on a stair lift and they are listing like this, and then all of a sudden they fall off, not only are they falling down the steps, they're probably taking the caregiver that's walking either behind them or next to them with them. And that can be detrimental. So stair glides, unfortunately for people with ALS, are temporary. What can get you through the duration of your illness is an interior stair lift. These are lifts that actually go up and down the steps, and you go up and down in your wheelchair. So again, they can last the duration of the illness. Now, they can't fit on all steps, depends on the width of your steps, it depends on how many steps you have, but they can accommodate both manual and power wheelchairs. Some of our folks have opted to put elevators in their house, and they are not commercial elevators. These are residence elevators, and they can come in various sizes. Some are round, some are square. And then this one I put in here, this is an interior lift. I mentioned that there were exterior lifts. Well, this is just the same, but it's an interior lift. And so you can go from first floor to second floor. And the nice thing about this is that it does not make you have to have a hole in your ceiling, because elevators are going to require you have, obviously, to go from floor to floor, you need to go through the ceiling. If you have the open space that you can take an interior lift, then you don't have any impediment with the ceiling, and then this can actually be removed when you're done with it. So there are external vertical lifts for those places that cannot be ramped, or for those homes where you're living on the second floor. Our chapter covers the central and southern New Jersey, and most of the ordinances of the new construction down New Jersey shore require that there is no living space on the first floor. So everything is, all the living space is on the second floor. And if you are living on the second floor, then you're going to have exterior steps like here, which are obviously not rampable. So you can get vertical lifts that will go up to the second floor. And here's one here, and this is actually, it's an enclosed one. It's an exterior vertical lift, sort of similar to an elevator, but they've covered it up due to weather. So it's not exposed like this one is to the elements. And this one is actually not exposed to the elements either. Okay, so, you know, if you're living at a beach area, you have erosion to consider. So you might have to have one that is covered. And lastly, I want to talk about emergency transport systems. So how to get out of the house in the event of an emergency and get down the steps. And this is a whole field of assistive technology that came to prominence after the Twin Tower disasters in 9/11, where so many people with disabilities got stuck in the towers because there was no way for them to get down the steps. So the emergence of emergency transport systems came into existence, and So these are great ideas for you to keep in the house in order to get somebody out in the event of an emergency. This tarp here is just $29, but it enables somebody with a disability. The caregiver puts them in the tarp. If there's more than one person, they can carry them on the side. Each person on the side grabs one of these handhelds here and can then carry the person down the steps. If worst case scenario, there's only one person in, you wrap the person up almost like a burrito and you drag them, the caregiver drags them with this part here down the steps. There are specialty designed chairs. You will often see them now in airports and in schools in order to help adults and students down the steps. They're called evacuation chairs. And if you look at some hotels have them now too on each floor. And so this is just one too. It's a larger one. This is electronic actually. So there is a track under here and there's a small motor that's helping this caregiver get her down the steps. These are my references of all of the articles and Google searches that I did to make this presentation. And I want to tell you to reach out to me if you have a home modification question, you have an adaptation, a safety question, please email me. That is what I am here for. And my email address is here. Also, you can connect with me on Facebook. I have a professional ALS Facebook page and on Twitter. And so with that, I want to thank you for joining me today for this presentation about home modifications.